this is my review of Infinity Train Book 2. Okay, so I should open this episode with a bit of a caveat. So, I want to explain something. So, this series actually came back 2 weeks ago, but, I didn't really have a place to review it until now, so I'm a little bit late. But, so I rewatched it just to refresh myself on what happened. But the main takeaway from book 2 is that all of Tulip's actions from the first book had consequences that carried over into the second one. So, i.e., her journey through the train when she came out had its own set of problems that it brought up when she left. So, the most pressing one is the fact that Mirror Tulip, her doppelganger from the first book, who we met in the Chrome car for a brief period, is actually the main protagonist of book 2. So it establishes pretty early on that she's been on the run from the Flex for quite a while, who we've met in the past book, but didn't get a proper name until now. I know the lead one's called Mace, and I forget what the other one is called. But Mace and his partner have been pursuing Mirror Tulip, who then renames herself MT later in the series, to try, and have been trying to catch her and ground her down to nothing because she's breaking mirror law because she's not allowed to be her own person. But it's quickly established that they're not allowed to be their own person because there's a law. They're not allowed to go out into the world and experience things. And it's explained later why that is, but for right now we just don't know the answer. So put that out of your mind for now. But eventually she does wind up meeting a magic deer and hides behind it, it turns invisible to shield her, and the Flex eventually give up and leave. At which point she tells the deer her life story, and the deer immediately imprints on her. It clearly likes her, so she decides to hang out with it. But then she meets a passenger named Jesse, who also befriended the deer and named the deer Alan Dracula, and she and Jesse immediately get off on the wrong foot. But then when Alan Dracula falls through the floor of the car they're in, which it's actually revealed to be a giant tree. In fact, it's called the family tree car, which you wouldn't know from the surface. I mean, there's a door on one end and a door on the other, but apparently the entire car is underneath their feet. So they go down and after getting into an argument, both form their own ways of getting down to Alan Dracula. But after realizing that none of their methods actually work, because the family trees of two different rival families have actually merged together in this car, they're forced to play nice and go down by the car and forced to go down to where Alan Dracula is. But then they discover Alan Dracula is able to get himself out because he's a magic deer, and they just ride him up. And they realize that they do need to help each other in order to move on, since MT points out that she needs to help Jesse get off the car, and she wants to be left alone with the deer. But over time, they do eventually develop a friendship. But it isn't until the map car, I believe, where they're eventually hunted down by the Flex again after solving the car's problem, much to the owner of the car's chagrin, because the entire point of the car is that you're supposed to form a map, but if you form a map, it becomes realistic, and the resident of the car wants to keep that from happening and is trying to keep them from finishing the map. Although Jesse eventually does by making his own exit door. At which point they leave, but then the Flex appear through the water, who I should add have gotten a lot better at climbing in and out of reflective surfaces, because when we first met them, they were kind of incompetent at it. They got stuck on a lot of things, and then they kind of just let Mirror Tulip leave. So they kind of weren't the best, but they have since gotten their shit together in a much more noticeable way. So they pursue Jesse, Alan Dracula, and Jesse through. They pursued Jesse, Alan Dracula, and MT through into the next car, which is a toad car, where the only way to get in and out is to kick the toad. So yeah, poor Toad. And Toad immediately expresses that he doesn't want to be kicked. So yeah, kind of a conundrum there. And with the Flex on the other side of one of the doors, they realize that they can't leave. But then eventually the two are forced to talk, and it's explained why exactly Jesse is on the car. So Jesse is established pretty early on to want to try and be a friend with everybody. He wants to be friends with everyone, even if it doesn't always make him the best person. But the final straw, which is what landed him on the train, was that he and his brother had a little brother, Nate, had a falling out after he and his friends pushed him down a hill on a gurney, and the two kind of hadn't spoken to each other before the train picked him up. So Jesse kind of got stuck on the train and is now regretting what he did with his brother. And MT, realizing that Jesse is coming clean with her, decides to come clean with him and explains why exactly she's being chased down by the Flex. So, and case in point, we already know the answer to this, because if you guys watch season 1, or book 1, I guess now, I'm gonna have to fix that. I'm gonna have to fix that in my spelling and stuff. But if you watch book 1, you'll know that she's not allowed to be her own person, and the Flex have been chasing after her. And so she explains that to Jesse, who immediately takes sympathy toward her. And then the Toad expressed that he wants to be kicked in order to help them escape from the Flex. And they eventually try to, but eventually Alan Dracula does it himself, and he goes flying into a wall. And then the Flex come into the room, but Jesse takes the Toad with him, explaining that they can't actually kick what's not there, and they get stuck in the car. After this point, they begin exploring the rest of the train in an effort to help Jesse get home. And during this sequence, which goes for about an episode and a half, it's actually explained that the Flex are actually former reflections, and that there's actually two options for a reflection once their prime dies. So they can either be repurposed as part of the Flex, or they can have their memories erased and reflect a new person. So yeah, it becomes increasingly clear that system is kind of broken, which is why MT decided to leave. But eventually, they wind up in a special car that hosts a carnival ground-ish thing called the Lucky Cat, which, not surprisingly, is run by the Cat, who we saw in season 1 repeatedly, but this is a one-off appearance here, who is immediately confused to see Tulip back on the train, but upon realizing that it's actually her reflection and one of the reflective people, she realizes that she may have been mistaken. Well, but they also don't really have much of an amicable relationship, because up to a certain point, Mirror Tulip has Tulip's memories, but doesn't really remember what happened after that, because after that they diverged and became their own people. So yeah, it's evident that memories do not carry over from the prime to the reflection, and that once the reflection becomes self-aware and becomes its own person, it stops using their memories. So yeah, and then the Cat explains that the only way out of the car is to win the door, but also explains that somebody else has been trying to win the door for a while now, and explains that if they can get 1,000 combined points, that she'll give them the door and let them out. So they do exactly that, competing against this mysterious stranger. But then, because it's Alan Dracula, he manages to get himself inside the crane game and starts eating the grass in there. And while the group is distracted, the mysterious stranger actually manages to win the door, and is revealed to be a passenger named Grace, who has effectively been running her own resistance group inside the train, and the Cat is very familiar with them, and even invites Jesse, MT, and Alan Dracula to go with them. But it quickly becomes apparent that they're kind of a cult-ish group, and it establishes pretty quickly that Grace and her group believe that Amelia was the true conductor and that 1-1 replaced her, and don't actually believe 1-1 is the true conductor. So effectively, Amelia incidentally and started a cult by accident. She didn't mean to start a cult, but it happened. And it also quickly becomes apparent that the Apex are not good people. They only respect passengers, and the denizens on the train kind of get treated like shit from them. So, yeah, Jesse eventually figures this out when they attack Alan Dracula and later MT, and defects from them, explaining that he will never join this kind of group in any world, be it on the train or outside the train. And rescues MT and Alan Dracula. At this point, Grace is kind of upset with Jesse and unleashes the flux from her compact mirror, which causes them to pursue Jesse and MT through the car with Alan Dracula in tow. But then this little sequence is what causes Jesse's number to reach 0, and then his exit forms. And he tries to take MT through the exit with him because he promised to do that earlier, but realizes too late that she can't, and then just disappears and leaves the train. So MT is left to fend for herself against the flex, and is chased on top of the cars and through an action sequence. But eventually she is caught by Mace, but then they fall off the train after one of the cars decides to move, and Mace loses his legs, and because he's a reflection, that basically means death, and he's slowly starting to die. So MT begins to carry him through the wasteland on Alan Dracula's back, but quickly realize that they can't go too far from the train because of how it works. For some reason, the train just draws people in and nobody's allowed to leave from the train. So they're slowly pulled back toward the train, and after talking with Mace for a minute, she realizes that she needs a number to get off. So MT climbs back onto the train, but then Mace tries to stop her, and she kicks Mace into the wheels and effectively kills him. So yeah, they got away with murder. They somehow found a way to get away with murder. I don't know how they did it, but they did. But yeah, effectively he's dead, and she realizes that the best way to get a number is to hijack a pod and see where it goes. And then such pod does eventually arrive, and it's revealed that Amelia's mech is actually a repurposed pod. So yeah, she actually repurposed her pod to be into a mech suit to serve as the head of her mech. And that's what the mech suit's head is designed on. So that's brilliant design. It's never stated outright, but that is intended to be the conclusion people are meant to make. But she does hijack a pod and takes it back to the tape car, which is a very nightmarish car where people are submerged in a strange liquid that also acts as a solid floor, where they're processed by these robots called porters, who process their memories before having them sent down, and after reviewing their memories gives them a number accordingly. So, and MT tries to piggyback off of somebody to get their number, but it doesn't work as the laser just goes right through her hands. At which point she just loses it and starts wrecking porters left and right, until she's eventually stopped by the Steward, who is revealed in the scene to actually be capable of ferrying 1-1 around, and that was its original purpose. We knew that already with what it did with Amelia and her mech suit, but it's even more explicit here because 1-1 is actually designed to fit inside her head and sit there. So yeah, it quickly establishes that that's what the Steward was meant to be, and that's what it's meant to do. And MT explains to 1-1 that she wants to get off the train and that she wants a number, but 1-1, despite hearing her pleas and acknowledging her concerns, explains that it simply just isn't possible because only passengers can get numbers, and she is not a passenger. But then he checks up on Jesse to figure out what's going on with him because MT's request, but discovers that he's somehow back on the train and has him processed immediately in order to determine why he's back on the train. And then we see Jesse's memories of his time on the train and his time after getting off. And this scene explains what happens while people are off the train. While people are on the train, they don't, their loved ones are in fact looking for them and acknowledge that they're gone, which means that apparently the train is just abducting people who aren't nice people, and everybody is aware of it. So yeah, that kind of is a bit of a mess, because Tulip kind of just showed up and we never saw that scene with her. But with Jessie, we actually get to see that scene, and it's a bit heartbreaking because it just shows that yes, while people are on the train, time doesn't just stop. They are in fact gone and do in fact disappear from the main world. So yeah, the Infinity Train basically abducts people and forces them to be good people. But then it's also explained that the reason Jesse is back on the train, after explaining it to his brother and reconciling with Nate, explains that he came back on the train to get MT, and after MT wakes him up, despite 1-1 pointing out that it's not protocol, like at all, explains that he wants to get her off the train, and that's his problem. But 1-1 points out that he can't leave the train and has him forcibly processed. But since his problem is that he's trying to get his friend off the train and she can't leave the train basically just has a fit. It goes into a logic loop, and the entire train just shuts down, and 1-1 is trying to logic out a solution to this problem. And while he's trying to figure it out, the remaining Mace's partner actually shows up and begins attacking Jessie and MT. And in the process, MT remembers that her skin is reflective, uses it to reflect Jessie's number onto her own hand, and that enables the train to figure out a solution, and she's allowed to go home, but not before the flak actually grabs her legs, and she's unable to escape the train until she throws some grass into the train, and Alan Dracula actually realizes that there's grass and attacks the flak, blowing him up. And at this point, Alan Dracula then just returns back to wherever it is he came from. So after that, MT decides to rename herself Lake and actually meets Jesse's little brother, and then that's the end of the season. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if they'll make a season 3 or if they'll make a book 3 or whatever, but it's apparent that they may not be able to, because they were able to get away with Tulip being the main protagonist of both the first and second season, because Tulip was the main protagonist of the first book, and then she made Mirror Tulip, who became the protagonist of the second. So I'm not entirely sure how they're going to logic away a third season. If they make a third season, I wouldn't be too surprised, but who knows? I think Tulip's story is officially done, though. I think they've officially wrapped up most loose ends. But there does beg the question of what kind of havoc did Jesse's run cause to the train. So yeah, they could explore Jesse's tie to things, which could be interesting, but I'm not entirely sure how that would work. So there are potential plot threads for the third season, but overall, I did like the second one. It was different. It was very different, but mainly because the passenger wasn't the main focus this time around. But it was different, and I did enjoy it. And I hope that they make a season 3. I don't think they will. I don't know how they will, but I hope they do make a third season, because this was interesting, and I do hope they continue to make the series. I don't know if they will, but they might. But if you guys have seen the second season of Infinity Train, then what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I would definitely appreciate it if you did that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!